Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hi, dear listeners. This is Rajasimhan. Welcome to the State of the Economy podcast. In this episode, we are going to discuss the impact of the fog in Delhi on the movement of aircraft across the country. There were delays in flight arrivals and takeoff, leaving passengers agitated across the country. For instance, in Mumbai, due to delay in takeoff, passengers were seen having food at the tarmac. This created a huge controversy, and the Directorate General of Civil Aviation imposed a fine of Rs 1.2 crore on the airline and Rs 60 lakh on the airport operator. Let's listen to what Bashyam Govindarajan had to say on this issue. He has spent 5 decades in aviation. After being with Air India for over 30 years, he runs Tirwin Management, an aviation consulting and training organization based in Chennai. Welcome to this podcast, Govind. Govind, thanks for joining. See, the fog over North India seems to be leading to a lot of flight delays in the recent times. Is it a common every year during winter? How different was this? We see a lot of challenges both in airports as well as airlines having too many issues to be sorted out. What's your thought on this?
December to February, in any winter, operations into and out of Delhi is always a challenge. Primarily due to fog and unexpected sometimes the weather conditions will suddenly develop. That is also another issue. But is it a first time phenomenon in our country this year? No. For years together, I have been in this business for 50 years. And Delhi is always the case. Sometimes even other northern Indian airports also will join. Whenever an airline puts any aircraft in the road cycle, including Delhi, the consequential delays across the country will be felt because of the Delhi operation. What has happened this year? It has suddenly ballooned, and many people are quite upset, and especially with social media being very active, a lot of things are spoken about, few incidents which have taken place in the last 78 days. The first contributor for this problem is one of the runways, that is 1028, seems to have a lot of work in progress. That is one runway which has got Cat 3B facilities. That means which is largely used during this type of winter for it gives clearance for people to land at very lower height also. But unfortunately, that runway seems to have been closed now and then. The reason given is recarpeting work. What people like us are a little bit unhappy on the whole issue is, this is something which the terminal operators or the authorities should have visualized, and they should have kept the runway free from such challenges much prior to the weather season or the winter actually starts working over in Delhi. Even a couple of days back, the news came that the inspections are being carried out on runway 28 and they are likely to clear it. And in an airport, even though there are a couple of runways in Delhi, unlike other airports, runways getting close which has got the instrument landing section of Cat 3B, if it is not going to be available for the pilots, definitely it is going to create chaos, and that is what has happened. Even though I have not been in the site, what I hear from the industry sources, the runway was not in ready condition to take care of the winter operation. And second issue is nowadays many of the airlines put their flight schedules back to back, and not giving much cushion for this type of adverse situations, adverse operations. So what happens? The consequential delay across the network could not be avoided. They were not in a position to pull out another aircraft from somewhere else or divert an aircraft which is operating one leg for another one. So the set pattern gets challenged. And for the first time, some of the flights people say what we hear in the report is 10 hours, 12 hours. As a matter of fact, last Saturday, I was traveling out of Goa to Bombay, a 45 minutes flight. My flight was delayed out of Goa itself around more than 2 hours. A 45 minutes flight, if it is delayed in departure of 2 hours, and then when it comes to Bombay, there was congestion, so the airplane has to necessarily hover over airport for another 45 minutes. So it took nearly airport to airport transportation around 3.5 hours from the scheduled time of departure to scheduled time of arrival, the actual time of arrival in Bombay airport. 3.5 hours for a 45 minutes flight. It makes people definitely frustrated because neither Goa nor Bombay were involved in this problem. Well, health, that is the situation that is arising out of the weather. But it happens. And you can imagine what will be the people perception and people experience if this state of things are happening because of the weather. The primary reason I could visualize is non-preparedness. This is what I feel.
I was coming to that point actually, non-preparedness. But looks like in the past we have not seen a kind of situation like this, and maybe the operators and the airlines are not, as you said, not prepared for this kind of handling the situation.
If you put the question to them, were you prepared for it? Every airline, every operator, every civil aviation authorities, they will say, we are in preparedness, we have got SOP in place. Nobody is going to say we are not prepared for it. And when we say the SOP is in place, many airlines will say this word. We have the SOP. Is that SOP means a ground reality? That's very, very important. Writing an SOP with some words does not guarantee that things will happen in the exact way. When we have SOP in place, okay, if this is happening, this has to be done, that has to be done. Yes, we write. But to what extent those SOPs of the airlines meet the ground realities? And immediately people will say, we are not in a position to visualize the ground realities because things happen all of a sudden. Nothing happens all of a sudden. We have a very clear this thing. First, there is something, even when there were no artificial intelligence and those stuff like that, there was a method of what do you call delay anticipation, or the operation disruptions is always visualized, taking the past experiences into consideration. To what extent they have done, that's a big question. Number two, nowadays, many of the aircraft are it's a commercial reason. We don't blame anybody. Commercial reasons, we have to keep the aeroplane up in the air as much as possible. When you do not have cushion time in your schedules, this type of disruptions are very, very difficult to manage. We must have some sort of elbow room when we put the schedule, at least in winter, especially involving Delhi or northern airports. Otherwise, no, if you do not have elbow room to accommodate anything, then this type of situation will certainly happen. The creeping delays, the consequential delays, and sometimes the airlines adopt to using a particular word called the flight is rescheduled. They do not want to accept the word delay. They want to say reschedule. So that when you say reschedule, it gets a lighter touch. So mainly, just because we have got SOP, we cannot say we are all in the right track.
One leading airline got into trouble because they did serve food in the tarmac, which was actually the airline was also fined. This actually created a lot of issues in terms of the safety, and also, is it right what they have done? humanitarian ways, they say what they have done is maybe justifiable. But what do you think about this? And also, the entire issue of this fog actually came to limelight because of that one issue. Is it so?
Absolutely, absolutely. That one particular incident in Bombay, that is, the passengers started using the tarmac or the apron area where the aeroplanes are to be parked as the recreation room or the the food court, and they started squatting on the ground. It certainly raised two issues. One is the security concerns. Number one is the security concerns. It is reported to have been a blatant violation of the security protocols. Number two, on safety also, because in the tarmac, there are certain disciplines are to be maintained, even if you have got a remote bay boarding, the management of the passengers. That is, if they go on an aero bridge, that's a different issue. But the aeroplane is parked on a remote bay, you take the passengers on a passenger tender, and how to manage them near the aircraft in the open area is certainly deserves a lot of attention, because it may cause some safety issues. But in this case, people seem to have used the open area. It can be spoken on humanitarian considerations, all those things to cover it up. The fact remains there were blatant violations, probably which airline did not visualize, or the airport operator did not visualize it as a violation, or things have gone beyond their control. Because, the frustration of the passengers are the peak. When, these days, if you really look at it, many of the airlines, another issue was holding the passengers standing in the aero bridge for hours without knowing when they are going to board the aeroplane. This type of passenger services in the airports are certainly a matter of concern, which will certainly challenge the security and safety. And I think rightly the government has looked at it also.
The Civil Aviation Authority, in fact, did levy a penalty on both the airline as well as the airport operator. But will this be of any use, or it will ensure this kind of an incident does not happen?
You can't say, because what penalty they have proposed, 1.2 lakhs, that is 12 million for the airline, and 3 million for the aerodrome operator. If you were to tell in a simple term, it's a peanut. Sometimes, what happens, we have a very strong belief in aviation circle. The penalty for non-compliance should be in such a way, one of the very famous words of US DOT and FAA statement is, the non-compliance penalty should be in such a way, the rogue attitude of the operator doesn't get repeated. Beautiful word. I used to enjoy this word. They will not say the non-compliance attitude. They will say the rogue attitude of the operator does not get repeated. That is, unless otherwise the fines are phenomenally high, this attitude will continue to be that. You may ask me, sir, 1.2 crores is a big money, but consider the aviation sector, consider the number of airplanes that the airline has got, consider the daily revenue of that airline. What is 1.2 crores? It's nothing. It's not going to have a pinch on that. See, our government does sometimes very tactful way of proposing penalties. Recently, one of the airlines violated a dangerous goods requirement. That is, they carried certain dangerous goods not in accordance with the requirement. The beauty of that was that right to carry the cargo was suspended. What will be the impact on the revenue? Till such a time they correct it. Had they put, say, 20 lakhs fine also, the airline would have just like that paid the 20 lakhs fine. Today it has become also some sort of a scene I see every month or every now and then. Newspapers carry a message. Civil Aviation Authority could collect 2.5 crores, 3 crores, like that. Look at the whole Indian aviation business value, capitalization. What is the amount of penalties? Peanuts. And this penalty is certainly not going to bring in some sort of effectiveness. If the fines are there, it should be felt by the person who has done a mistake. 1.2 crores, do you mean to say an airline of Indigo nature is going to even feel 1.2 crores? Definitely not. Because you might have seen in the last few months, many occasions when the penalties are paid, I have never seen so far, or I have not heard so far, any airline at least raising an objection for the penalty. The moment the penalty, because there is a provision. If the penalties are proposed, you can always go to the authority, say that I don't need to pay the penalty because I have not done anything wrong. The very fact, many of the operators, what is happening, 3-4 airlines names repeatedly come every month. They are willing to pay the money within hours of the penalty being proposed. We hope they have already paid. That shows. Actually, I don't care actually. It's not a big issue. In my opinion, that 1.2 crores for an airline of Indigo nature, it's nothing. It's not even a peanut. The basic problem in why these things are happening, or there is nobody is willing to contest it. You know the earlier cases of even Air India, where the urine issue was going on and all those things, some fines were proposed and so on and so forth. We are not seeing any airline even saying that, no, we are not going to pay it because we have not done anything wrong. How this is happening is, if you really look at it, the airlines business is expanding. Airlines people are working, but more of skill development is there. People believe skill development is the issue. When you have got skill as the core issue, and if the skill is not supported by knowledge, this type of situations will certainly. The knowledge-driven skill is what is required in aviation. But unfortunately, over a period of time, we focus too much on skills. Nothing wrong. Skill must be developed. The people should have the required skill. But merely having a skill is of no use. They should have the knowledge-driven skill. This is what I have been telling for quite some time. We do not have the basic knowledge. If you take this example of handling it, the knowledge was not there. The skill was there managing the situation of allowing the passengers, but the knowledge was not there. What would be the consequences of it? If the knowledge was there, their action would have been different. They know today's skills are to do what to do, but the knowledge only will support, make the person to do the right thing when things go wrong, like in a disruption in flights or a delayed flight or another consequential flight, they will be in a position to do. So what is required today is knowledge-driven skill, but people say we are spending so much on skill development. So it be, but they need to focus on knowledge, because many of the people may not know even what would have gone wrong if the people have been allowed to let loose on the tarmac, what all possibilities would have happened. Assuming that they had a safety issue, it will not be 1.2 crores of a fine. It could be much, much, much more than that.
Finally, some of the foreign countries do have this problem almost every year. If a similar situation happens there, what could have been, how could have they solved this problem? And obviously, the SOP which we keep hearing, what sort of SOPs do they have and how strictly are they followed?
See, weather-related issue is certainly minimum in India. We have it only in the month of maybe end December to January, February first week. That too when it is associated to Delhi primarily and sometimes to Jaipur. Otherwise, we do not have great weather issues. Maybe once in a way, torrential rain in Chennai or Bombay or Vizag may lead to certain diversions and delays. That too for a couple of hours or maximum of a day. But this weather issue arising due to winter weather issues is highly restricted to Delhi, maybe sometimes to Jaipur. But if you look at it globally, many of the European stations and American stations are always it's a continuous phenomenon for them. And second thing, when the winter starts itself, every airline, you can see every airline will work on standby resources. They will forget about even the weather, the Thanksgiving traffic, Christmas traffic, vacation traffic. Like that, they are in a position to visualize, and they are in a position to do a phenomenal forecasting. Not only the traffic forecasting. Today, our airlines are very good in forecasting the traffic during the season. For example, Diwali time or any of those times. The next action that they do is revise their fares. But they don't prepare themselves for a seamless transportation. If you take the winter schedules, people, they do a forecasting? Yes, absolutely. They do a forecasting for the traffic. How many passengers are likely to travel? How can I increase the fare? How can I garner more money? That forecasting our Indian airlines are doing it. But their forecasting of possible delays, disruptions of flight appears to be still far away from the thinking. So we cannot compare directly with European carriers or American carriers because their focus is always on forecasting the delays arising due to this type of disruption. That is the problem there. There, if your flights are getting delayed, it's cost the airline money. For everything, there are compensations. What do you have in India? We do not have anything in India. We just say if the flight is delayed, yes, sometimes there is a circular to say the meal is to be served. What meal also we are not told, whether it's a cold meal or appropriate hot meal of the time, nothing we are told. And even if you take these low-cost carriers, they delay the flight for 4 hours, and on board they don't give anything. If that type of penalties are, when I say penalties, with that type of conditions are given, the airlines will look at that cost. When they look at the cost, they will be in a position to forecast the delays also. Today, there is nothing. Okay, let's take 1.2 crores penalty and 30 lakhs of penalty. It goes to the government. In what way the passengers who suffered were benefited by this fine? Let's ask a very fair question. In what way the passengers who were affected on the flights were compensated? That is what is more important. Our government regulation should be in such a way, irrespective of whether you're a low-cost carrier or a legacy carrier, if your flight is delayed more than X minutes, you are bound to do this. That type of regulation should come. Not with the generic condition saying that passengers should be taken care of. What is the taken care of? It should be very clearly detailed whether they should be given meal, whether they should be given hotel, whether they should be given A, B, C, D, everything should be there. And if the airline starts spending on it, you will find them forecasting delays arising due to weather. You will find them trying to schedule the flights in such a way they don't do too much of back-to-back with this type, giving some elbow room for this type of situations. So far that is not there. You will find the airlines will say, and the airlines will say, the standard words they will say, sorry for the inconvenience, sorry for the delay. This type of words will come. This type of words are not going to give real comfort to the affected passengers. Passengers have been kept in an aeroplane for hours. Passengers have been kept for hours in the unknown, not knowing what's going to happen. The airline should be made like foreign countries. So let's not compare Indian operators with foreign operators, because foreign operators have got a very specific guidelines. You might have seen some passengers getting stuck for 10 hours, 12 hours in a foreign airport due to weather, but they are compensated, they are taken care of. Here, what is that? That's a big question. Let's take one of the flights which we are talking about. If the flight was delayed for a couple of hours, were there passengers served the meal on board? That's a big question. When the flight is delayed for more than 1 hour, the passenger should be given a meal. Then you will find all the airlines operating on time, irrespective of the weather or not. This is my firm belief.
Thank you, Govind, for joining us.
Thank you.